So I think, David, you can call the meeting to order. Proceed according to the agenda.
Okay. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. And our first item, and now I got to get to the right page. But our first item is going to be the minutes of the previous meeting.
Well, so I think you should do a roll call first.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I apologize.
Okay, we're ready.
Yeah.
Commissioner Perry? Not present. Commissioner Watson?
Present.
Commissioner Banks?
Here.
Commissioner Bennett?
Present.
Commissioner Hudson? Not present. Commissioner Young?
I'm here.
Commissioner Claiborne?
Present.
Commissioner Williams? Not present. And then, Chair Newberger.
Present.
So you have a quorum with 6 present and 3 not present.
Okay. Now, when we talked about this earlier, I'm unclear. Are we going to go ahead with the election of officers and then the minutes? Is that what we're doing, or is Dale giving somebody giving a little bit of remarks about how we're proceeding?
Well, I think we can approve the minutes first, and then we can have election of officers.
Okay. So I'm trying to get to the right pages too. I'm not brilliant at this. There we go. This is, we presented the minutes of the February 12 of the Tax Increment Finance Commission, April 12 at 8 o'clock, and those minutes have been circulated. I'm going to move their adoption. Is there a second?
Second, Eric Young.
Okay. Is there any discussion about that? Hearing none, I'm going to call for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Watson? Is he answering? I'll come back to him. Commissioner Banks?
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Commissioner Claiborne?
Yes.
And I'm gonna try for Commissioner Watson again. I think he's muted. Chair Newberger?
Yes.
And we have 5 voting yes and 1 abstention.
Yes, I'm here.
Good.
Good.
Are you voting yes?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, I guess he's not.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the election of officers for the year. There's a proposed list in the materials provided to us by SLDC, in which David Newberger would be chair, Philip Claiborne would be vice chair, Otis Williams would be secretary, Dale Ruth Sutz would be assistant secretary, Zachary Wilson would also be assistant secretary, and Mike Bauer would be the last assistant secretary. I'm going to move their adoption. Is there a second?
Second, this is Christina.
Is there any discussion?
This is resolution 405.
Right.
Roll call?
Yes.
Okay, roll call vote.
Pardon? We're ready for a roll call vote, I think, yes.
Okay. Commissioner Watson? Commissioner Banks?
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Commissioner Claiborne?
Yes.
Chair Newberger?
Yes.
And we have, if motion passes with 5 voting yes and 1 abstention.
Okay. Now I'm going to open the public hearing on the proposed Iron Hill Redevelopment Area project. And this also calls for us to, we would be doing the whole development district, but we would be specifically considering proposals for project area 1 and 2. So Dale, now do you want to do any introduction? Or?
Well, I'll begin by talking a little bit about the process for people who might want to speak during the public hearing. In order to ensure the meeting goes as smoothly as possible, we ask that each individual carefully read and follow the guidelines that follow. In order to ensure all participants can hear the audio in the meeting, it is essential that your phone or microphone be muted when you are not speaking. If you attend the meeting via Zoom and wish to speak for the public hearing, please list your name, telephone number, and email address in the Q&A section. The moderator will activate your ability to speak and will address you individually, at which time we ask that you unmute yourself to speak. Once you are done, please state that you have finished and return to mute status. If you are attending the meeting by phone and you are unable to access the Q&A function and wish to make a comment, you will be provided a telephone number to call to make your comment to the commission once all Zoom participants have spoken. The moderator will ask one person to speak at a time. Each person must state very clearly their name and affiliation, if any, and proceed to comment. When finished, please state that you are done.
Okay. And then I guess, Rob, you're going to start off the introduction of this project.
David, this is David Meyer. Could you take a look at the thing that we sent you? We were hoping that you would move to adopt that as a formal procedure.
Oh, okay. Just adopt what Dale just read. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I don't need to dig that document out, but I'm going to move the adoption of the procedure that Dale Ruthsess just outlined. Is there a second?
Eric Young, second.
Okay, then is there any discussion? Hearing none, I call for a roll call vote.
We can do previous roll if you'd like.
Okay, is there any objection to previous roll? Hearing none, the motion is adopted. And now we're ready to start, is that right, David? Dale?
That's correct.
Okay. Rob, the floor is yours.
Sure, thank.
I will begin. And what we're doing now is considering Resolution 20 TIFC 406. And this resolution authorizes the submission of a favorable recommendation to the Board of Aldermen with respect to the Iron Hill TIF Redevelopment Plan. The redevelopment projects RPA 1 and RPA 2 described therein, and a redevelopment area described in the redevelopment plan. The proposed redevelopment plan applies to a redevelopment area consisting of approximately 15 acres in the Midtown neighborhood, bounded by South Grand, Chouteau, South Spring, and Gratiot Street. The redevelopment plan divides the redevelopment area into 6 redevelopment project areas, RPAs. Only redevelopment project area 1 and 2 are contemplated for approval at this time. The redevelopment plan will need to be amended prior to approval of the other redevelopment projects at a later date. Redevelopment areas include all of city blocks 2184, 2187.03, and 2187.04. The proposed project consists of a large mixed-use development that is expected to include residential apartments, office space, retail, hotel, and structured parking. Significant roadway and sidewalk and signalization improvements will also be included in the project. The developer has requested $60.6 million in TIF assistance for a project approximating $334.5 million in redevelopment cost. So now Rob Lochner will, from the developer, will explain in more detail the project.
Thank you, Dale. Anthony, just a point of order here. It looks like we have multiple folks signed in on my link that may need to speak. So if you could help manage the microphone when I call on them, that would be helpful.
They have control over their own microphones.
Okay, great. Thank you. Just a moment, please. I'm going to share my screen. So again, my name is Rob Lochner. I'm with Cullinan Properties. I'll be the lead presenter today, and I'll be passing the mic, the virtual mic, so to speak, back and forth to various team members that are participating in the overall presentation. I just wanted to thank SLDC and the TIF Commission for your leadership and putting the meeting or keeping the meeting on schedule as originally planned. We know it's a very trying time for everyone, and dealing with some of the technological challenges we have to keep business moving can be a little trying at times. So thank you very much for accommodating us and allowing us to have the meeting as planned. That just gives us that much more confidence that we have great partnership with the city on this project. And we're very excited to be here today to present what will be a great development for the city and for Cullinan Properties and all of our team members, as well as the neighborhood. With that, I'd like to pass the microphone to our chief, our CEO, Chris West. He is calling in from our Chicago office. Chris? I cannot hear Chris.
Chris, you have to unmute yourself.
So hover back over the left microphone button. I see you, but I can't hear you. Anthony, can you hear him?
No, I cannot. You'd hear everything I hear. I've allowed him to unmute himself. His microphone may not be working.
Ask him to do a *6 and see whether he can do it.
He's Rob Lochner too, is what it says.
Yes.
Rob, ask him or text him and ask him to do a *6. Maybe that will unmute him.
Okay.
He's not dialed in on a phone.
Oh, he's not?
Oh,
Okay.
no, actually he is. I'm sorry. Yeah, on your phone, do a *6.
Yeah, that would be good.
Commissioner Perry, have you joined us by phone?
He's unmuting. Okay.
Should I ask the question again?
While we're waiting, Commissioner Hudson is trying to log in, so if someone could, on staff could give her a call, she's having difficulty.
David's working
I
on,
can't find the thing to send it because I'm not at my computer. Should I just go to my
go to
computer?
your, David's gonna go.
I'm Otis. How about I proceed and apologize for not being able to hear Chris on this.
Okay.
So again, thank you all very much for maintaining the meeting for today. I just wanted to present our team. We have a very experienced and accomplished team that we've put together for the project. With Cullinan Properties, we've have myself that will be the lead development person, as well as Sean Garrett, who's our president for acquisitions and also be working on the pre-development side of the project. Tony Ramadani is our vice president of finance. Chris, of course, is our CEO, and he's the project principal. Other key team members include Lamar Johnson Collaborative as our design partner, Clayco as our construction and inclusion partner. Colliers will be doing our office leasing. We do our own retail leasing in-house at Cullinan. And our legal counsel consists of Miller Hall and Triggs, which has a long-term relationship with Cullinan Properties, as well as Spencer Fain here locally as it relates to our various incentives. Development Strategies is providing consulting services on the real estate side in terms of cost benefit analysis, blight studies, et cetera. And also we'll be including Stiefel in the bond issuance. Cullinan is a 30-year-old full-service real estate development company with proven success throughout primarily the Midwest in all aspects of mixed-use development. Strong history in residential, hotel, retail, office, and all the components that we see in the Iron Hill development itself. Locally, we've had great success at the Loss at Euclid, which opened in 2016 and has been a very successful apartment project. We just recently opened Fields Foods last year. And this was a very successful historic renovation project, 98% occupancy, and a very good addition to the neighborhood, reusing a underutilized building for a number of years. Probably our most successful project in the region is the mixed-use project at Streets of St. Charles, taking a primarily largely vacant 26-acre tract of ground immediately across the river off of I-70 and 5th Street, and redeveloping that over the course of the last 8 years into a vibrant mixed-use development that includes residential, hotel, retail, entertainment concepts as well. It's a complete transformation of the site and has been very successful for both us, the tenants, and the city of St. Charles. We work very closely with the city of St. Charles in the development of the project and have had a very open, positive, productive relationship over the years. It's also been a proven success in terms of generating tax revenue, both on the real estate side and on the retail sales side. With that, I'd like to pass it over to Brooks Gedeker, who will share with the team as to how how SLU developed the RFP process and that led to our selection. Brooks.
Thank you, Rob. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right, great.
So thank you for allowing me to give some background on the redevelopment area, our redevelopment area and this piece of property. As Rob mentioned, I am the executive director of the St. Louis Midtown Redevelopment Corporation, which St. Louis University and SSM Health are the shareholders of. Just again, to give some background on how the formation of that redevelopment corporation. Dr. Postello, the president of St. Louis University, came to town 6 years ago. And when he did, he said, St. Louis University's campus looks beautiful. It's great. What's happened here over the last several decades, but really what's happening around the campus here. As we all know, there's eyesores, there's vacancies, there's a lot of old industrial buildings and that have been vacant for some time. And Dr. Postello looked at that and said, St. Louis University and SSM Health really should be helping to invest in those areas, in those neighborhoods, in order to make Midtown the best place that it can be. Midtowns in most cities around the country are places that you not only go to for school or for healthcare, but it's also places that you go to for retail and for entertainment and for services and that. And that's what Dr. Postello has really tried to do with this redevelopment area here. So he got very familiar with Washington University Medical Center's redevelopment corporation area, the Missouri Botanical Garden and their efforts there, and of course Cortex. And him and his team began working with SLDC in the city of St. Louis and the state of Missouri to go ahead and form the redevelopment corporation. It took from 2015 to 2017, but it was finally adopted in March 2017. And that's when I also came on board at that time. And the only reason that I actually left the Grove after 15 years to come over to this was because it was going to be done the right way as part of this. They were going to go ahead and do this, work with the neighborhoods, allow the residents to have a major part in what was happening here. As a social worker, that's really what we tried to do in the Grove. In the Grove, what gets a lot of attention is, of course, the Grove signs and Grove Fest and all of the murals. But what people don't know is we were the ones that started participatory budgeting there before it was even a catchphrase. We formed the second form-based code in the city of St. Louis there in the Grove. And then we also have made the commitment there in the Grove that 20% of all housing in the neighborhood there would remain affordable. So those are some successes that happened in the Grove there that we went ahead and carried on here with this redevelopment area. Dr. Postello, of course, he's the one that welcomed protesters to the St. Louis University campus after Ferguson. He worked with the protesters there to go ahead and to sign the Clock Tower Accords. And he's been working to go ahead and put those in place ever since. We, in the last 3 years of the Redevelopment Corporation being formed, we've signed a community benefits agreement working with the NAACP and other advocacy groups to go ahead and sign an agreement that any developments within the 400-acre redevelopment area would go ahead and have minority and women construction and would have workforce as part of it. So we would go ahead and meet the city's requirements on all of those. We've gone ahead and hired Vladimir Monroe with SLDC and his great team there to go ahead and track all of that. And then we've also went ahead and funded an apprenticeship training program. So we have more workforce and more minorities as part of the construction workforce here. In addition, as part of the redevelopment area, we've formed a citizen advisory committee. The Citizen Advisory Committee is made up of 4 residents that live in and around the redevelopment area, along with 3 business and property owners there. So before any development happens within the redevelopment area, it first gets approval from the Citizen Advisory Committee. We worked to go ahead and bring back the Gate District West Neighborhood Association, which had been dormant for about 6 years. And after bringing back the Gate District West Neighborhood Association in 2017, we actually allowed the neighborhood association there to lead the development of 48 single site parcels that SLU owned. There will now be 40 new homes and 12 condos as part of it. So the residents there decided what was to happen with those properties. Habitat for Humanity is doing 7 homes as part of that development. And then next year we'll go to the neighborhood association and we'll actually work with them on a 4-acre piece of property at Park and Compton and allow the residents there to go ahead and decide on a mixed income property development there. There'll most likely be 30 to 40% affordable housing as part of that development. So we really do have a lot of great things that are happening as part of the redevelopment area. And then when we came to this 14-acre piece of property at Grand and Chouteau, we knew that this was going to be a major part of the development, but we wanted to go ahead and wait and make sure that the City Foundry development and the Armory development were underway. And then in 2018, we went ahead and released an RFP for this property development there. We spoke to over 50 developers around the country that were doing projects next to universities and hospital systems. And what we ended up finding out, and also talking to St. Louis developers, is a lot of folks that we were speaking with wanted to do more strip center type developments. But that's definitely not what the residents here wanted to see. That's not what St. Louis University and SSM Health and myself wanted to see for this. And so when Cullinan began working with us and talking to us about their proposal here, it was beyond exciting. This is an 850,000 square foot development over 14 acres, which is a 1.4 floor to area ratio. This is the type of density that has not been seen in several decades in the city of St. Louis. Just in comparison, the Foundry project is a 0.9 floor to area ratio, and when the Cortex is finished, will be a 0.5 floor to area ratio. So this is an extreme dense development here. It's very exciting because the residents currently, most of them are traveling outside of the city of St. Louis for goods and services, and for them to actually have this right next to their neighborhoods and have the chance to have groceries and the services there is definitely outstanding. And to have it to be a walkable development is very exciting. One of the things when I go and go to all the neighborhood association meetings for both the Gate District West neighborhood and the Tiffany neighborhood that's next door, what I hear from them is, again, they're very excited. I think what you'll see here is a large number of letters of support that have come in for this project from the residents there. There was many more that wanted to write. We actually said, I think we have enough. There's a lot of residents that don't have computers and that would like to be on and testify as support for this development. But one of the things that they have said is, will there be business owners that look like ourselves there as part of this development? Will there be property owners and business owners here that look like us? And so Cullinan has taken the opportunity to work with SLU's Habitat for Neighborhood Business program, which is this great program that now has 40 African-American business participants, where that program allows them to go ahead and grow their businesses or to help start second businesses in that. And Cullinan is actually working with them to go ahead and locate some of those businesses at this property here. So last, what I'll just say is that, I'm happy to answer any questions as we go along here as part of this process and that. But it's a real testimony that this project is still here with us today in this uncertain times. It is the right development. It is the right site plan. It's going to go ahead and connect North City and South City to Midtown through the Grand Metrolink stop, through the 70 bus line that goes right by the development. The new brick line Greenway is going to go also right through to the development there. It's an important intersection that really connects so many great neighborhoods and areas, and we're finally taking Midtown and having it be this dynamic mixed-use district that everybody's been waiting to see. So thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Brooks. So we'll move to the design of the of the project now, and the key to the overall design that we wanted to make sure that was implemented into the project is that we really want to build on the momentum that's happening in the central corridor. Secondly, we wanted to bridge the SLU's north and south campuses by transforming this vacant ground into very productive uses and amenities that will be beneficial to the entire neighborhood. Third, we wanted to link the development to the Chouteau Greenway, and we'll show you how we're accommodating that. But also we wanted to provide public spaces for public gatherings that not just our tenants and visitors to the development could enjoy, but also the entire neighborhood, but ultimately make a very diverse, walkable, mixed-use project. The project is located at the intersection, as Brooks was mentioning, very important intersection at Grand and Chouteau at the nice northwest quadrant, positioned between the hospital and SLU's North Campus, but also around the development are other parcels that we hope we will be a catalyst for redevelopment of those parcels to even expand the amount of amenities and opportunities for business and visitors to this location. The site's organized around primarily a central plaza. We have a network of streets that we will be constructing for vehicular traffic, but also to have good pedestrian access. We have a new series of sidewalks, landscape areas, hardscape areas throughout the development. We are planning a large 5-level parking structure on the north side of the development that provides the majority of the parking for the site, and it will be built into the hill, so it's not going to be a large ominous structure kind of overlooking the entire development. The perimeter of the site will have strong urban street frontage and will be higher rise buildings. And then as you go towards the middle of the building, there'll be lower level pavilion buildings, mainly retail buildings surrounding the public plaza. This is a view from the south looking to the north. You can start to see how the public plaza will lay out and the various view corridors into the development from Chouteau and Grand. You also get a sense for the massing of the buildings as well as the architecture, which we plan to be more on the contemporary and reference some of the industrial nature of the history of the area. So therefore, a lot of exposed structures or metal and or stone will be used on the facades of the building, as well as quite a bit of glass as well. This is a view from Chouteau into the public plaza. The intent of those smaller retail pavilion buildings flanking the plaza would be to have open rooftop amenity spaces or bars or restaurants that overlook the plaza. This is a view from Grand looking into the development. This is the location, even though it's not shown in this rendering, but this is where we are proposing a new traffic signal, and you can start to see some of the retail elements that will be activating the street plane. This is a view from Chouteau looking into the development as well, closer to the hotel. And it's important that we plan for future connectivity between our site to the hospital site to the south. This is looking into the public plaza. Again, this will be a highly amenitized public plaza with the ability for us to host street markets, concerts, and other events that the general public can attend for free. We do these events We have a very robust program at Streets of St. Charles that we do for public events, and we would implement a similar strategy here at Iron Hill. Overall, it's a very dense mixed-use urban development, as Brooks mentioned, 1.4 floor area ratio. And we are very excited about having the ability to connect our project to the various neighborhood amenities and provide for very high level of design, fully accessible, and have great job opportunities for the neighborhoods, not just jobs, but also careers that provide for upward mobility for residents. To give you an idea of the extent of the retail that we're planning, we have a little bit over, right around 140,000 square feet of retail currently planned. This is the first floor or the main floor of the site. Basically, every building has first ground floor retail on it. We've had very strong interest in a general merchandise retail anchor for the southeast corner, and lots of other tenants, both restaurant and commercial tenants, for the other spaces as well. We've also hosted several neighborhood meetings with Brooks's help and Marlene Davis's help. We've presented the various types of tenants that we are looking for our development. And not only would those be tenants that people can shop at or dine at, but also those provide job opportunities for the neighborhood. That's the design portion of the presentation. I'd like to turn it over to Ryan Taylor with Clayco now, and Sandra Marks, to have them talk a little bit about Clayco, who is our construction partner, as well as our diversity and inclusion program. Ryan.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to talk a little bit about Clayco and our involvement in the project. We're extremely excited to be part of the Cullinan team on this with our design group, LJC. Clayco has been in the St. Louis area for 36 years now. I've been with Clayco for 16 years, mainly working in the St. Louis market. We're almost a $3 billion company now from when we started. And like I said, we're extremely excited to be part of the Cullinan team and working on this great project as the builder, the designer, and we also have our concrete division and our glass division. Someone else that I work very closely with, and she's very integral to this project, is Sandra Marks, who works on our diversity and inclusion. And I'm going to turn it over to Sandra and talk a little bit more about that.
Thanks, Ryan. I'm Sandra Marks, as Ryan said, and I'm an executive at Clayco, and I've had a relationship with Clayco long before coming inside to the company in 2015. I worked with Clayco for almost, looks like I was thinking about it, over 20 years as a consultant in different capacities, helping them with their own internal program. But in 2015, we took a look at where we were with our program and put some new initiatives in place to deal with trying to build and grow capacity. And this project here in Ferguson, the Centene Call Center or Claims Processing Center, was really our first project where we benchmarked our relationships with over 24 minority-owned firms and 3 women-owned firms, but also looked at all of the firms that are certified by the city of St. Louis and where our relationships were. Clayco had been doing business with many of these firms, even on projects that are not city. Ryan has had a long relationship with several of our other private clients that have also done work with these firms. But we want to look at where they were with their relationship with Clayco, the volume of business they had done, what their capacity was. And this program really became the benchmark for building from it how we would expand the capacity of these firms to do more business with us. On the Centene project, we built those relationships. We achieved 34% MBE and 6% WB, although there were no client-directed requirements or goals to do so. But we have, at Clayco, implemented our program built around, in every market where we do business, whatever the prevailing goals are in that market, those become our goals for our project to see how close we can achieve those and build capacity. We also had great workforce on the Ferguson project, which again became a benchmark for us to see what we could do moving forward. We also have a relationship that has obviously continued with the SLDC, but this past year, the latter part of the year, we were part of a group of builders that attended a workshop that the SLDC hosted to really look at our own internal practices and to really evaluate whether our practices had sound and unbiased processes built into them. So each of us was required to provide in writing our checklist, which essentially became our good faith effort checklist for the work that we do. So we submitted ours to Vladimir and his team in October. And after they reviewed it and met with us and went through it, it was approved. It starts with how we solicit bids and goes all the way to how we not only deliver our projects, but also what are we doing to try to build capacity? How are we helping to contribute to what the SLDC and its partners are trying to do? So that checklist is the one we use on all projects, not just in St. Louis. We actually do this same checklist all over the country, modify it to the particular market, but it is the guideline that we use on all of our projects with the help of SLDC. Our current project that people are aware of and see visibly is Kings Highway, or what they often refer to as the big pineapple on the Kings Highway that's being built. And that project is another one we're working closely with the SLDC. In terms of benchmarking capacity building, I've looked at the firms that we worked with on the Centene Ferguson project, and over 90% of those same firms are on the Kings Highway project, and as well as projects that we've had in between. So them having the opportunity to build relationships with us and continue those relationships, you'll see that we've also implemented our own workforce program on Kings Highway and previous projects. And some of these photos show the diversity of our team as well as how we've done. But in terms of, and that project is still going on, so we don't have our final report for that. But the Everly project, which is actually at 6105 Delmar, is the last project that we completed with the SLDC under the former goals of the city of 25 and 5. And same thing, many of the same firms and many other firms were introduced to Clayco on that project. And the one thing that I look at also inside with my team is the size of our projects. And as we go to larger projects, Centene Ferguson was about a $26 million project. The Everly was about $50 million. Kings Highway is over $100 million. So even when we have these larger projects, to be sure that we're maintaining the percentages as best we can and looking at areas where we don't have capacity and what are we doing to address that. So on Everly, we achieved, we keep track internally of just all of our payments and what percent of those payments go to NB and WB firms. So that was 27 and 1. But then with the SLDC compliance tracking, our percentages then reflect what the actual spend was when you look at the way you must count participation and looking at how suppliers are tracked as well as which firms are certified by the city of St. Louis. And Vladimir is going to go more into that report, I know. We started an initiative also in 2015 on the workforce called CCDI, Construction Career Development Initiative. And this was actually also started out of Ferguson and the call center project. And we continue to do this initiative today. We've been able to get over 65 young people into the trades right out of high school, working with the participating schools. When we started the program initially, it was North County because of, again, that's where Clayco's offices are located. And it's also, of course, where the school districts that were most affected with Ferguson were located. But we have also looked at expanding the program and work closely with all of our subcontractors and partners. A project like this is exciting because it does give us a chance to expand into the city. And you'll see as part of our own initiative that we've already identified the schools within the city and the St. Louis Public Schools. We've had meetings with the superintendent and of the St. Louis Public Schools in the past to talk about how projects in the city could participate. So the CCDI program takes high school students in their sophomore year of high school and we identify or help expose them to all the trades as well as the professions. You'll see at the top pictures on the screen that those students come out to our job sites, they interact with our project teams. We have executives who are mentors to the students, but we also have subcontractors who mentor the students. Each student ends up with a one-on-one mentor relationship, but they also attend a Saturday Academy that we continue to do. We're now doing them virtually, but every month we meet with the students and expose them. Bob Clark, our founder, also comes in and talks with them about the entrepreneurial side and tells them the history of Clayco and how he built this company himself when he started at the age of 24. Our initiative that we have called Field Focus, managed by one of the other members of my team, Dan Lester, also deals with the culture out in the field and why are we struggling to retain people who do express interest. So CCDI is really about retention, not just hiring people, but retaining them and then tracking them all the way to whatever part of the construction career they want to achieve. Obviously, that this time the projects are exciting, that we continue to be able to keep our projects going, but certainly a project like this is exciting for these firms that we're trying to help bridge this period with what's happening with the pandemic, for them to know that there are projects that they can be involved in particular mixed use where the smaller firms and the larger firms can all participate. So we're excited to be part of it and to partner with Cullinan, partner with Midtown Development to make this a success.
Thank you, Sandra. Very impressive. We're very fortunate to have Clayco as our construction partner with given their track record and their professionalism and commitment to the community. Thank you very much.
I'd like to ask Ms. Marks a question. First of all, I know construction is considered a essential activity, so maybe you haven't been terribly impacted by the layoffs that have gone on. So first of all, have you had an impact of layoffs and furloughs?
As a company, Bob Clark, as a matter of fact, started calls right after this situation occurred on every Monday with all of the MB and WB firms and small firms that we work with in St. Louis, and we've also extended that to the other markets. But in St. Louis, we have invited the entire directory as well as the 100 firms that are in our program. Because yeah, we have an impact like all companies. Bob kind of has shared with those firms on the call, Clayco's what he called crash plan, 1, 2, 3 level crash plan. And I don't know what level we're at, but he shared with them what Clayco was doing immediately to be sure that we were able to weather the storm as a larger company, but also trying to make sure these smaller firms that don't have legal teams and safety teams had full access to everything that Clayco has to make sure that they can survive. I'm actually in the process of interviewing today about 30 of the minority-owned firms that are in our program, working with our partner WashU and also McCarthy and some of the other GCs, where we're interviewing the firms that we have relationships with to see what their impact has been. A lot of them haven't felt it. The ones that were strong before this pandemic are continuing to still have work because the work was in the ground. The bigger concern is new projects, the fact that projects potentially are being delayed. These are smaller firms, so whereas there's been advice that firms need to really hold cash and obviously be sure that they can collect on their receivables, you know, they need help to do that. And that's what we've been doing one by one, actually helping them collect on receivables of work that they already did so that they can be sure they do have cash. Many of them are going for these disaster relief funds. We're helping them fill those fill that paperwork out. We had a banker on the line this Monday because some of them have gotten funds. That's been mostly the larger ones that already had things in place. But yeah, we're seeing the effect mostly at this point is really because of the fact that we are trying to make sure that we're keeping people safe, and that's the first priority. So our smaller firms are trying to do the same thing. We're actually helping them buy PPE, safety equipment. Many of them could not get the equipment. Their orders were being held back. So we now actually today put on our website an order form to order for them so that their order goes in with ours. And of course, we have existing equipment. We're also struggling to get PPE and keep up with PPE. But of course, when we're ordering 150,000 face masks and they need 200, we could really help get them their face masks because they can come along with us. So it's a continuous everyday grind, Mr. Newberger, now, because that's the top of mind for everybody is. We've heard that 25% of small businesses might not make it, and we know that that's going to be exasperated when you're a minority or a woman-owned firm. So we're really focused on that. Yeah.
Thank you. That sounds very positive.
Thank you, Sandra. So I want to talk a little bit about the infrastructure that we are proposing for the project, as well as this being a transportation-oriented development and our various connection points to the surrounding communities. The project includes significant infrastructure, actually. Improvements to Grand and Chouteau include a new traffic signal, as I mentioned previously, at the intersection of Grand and what constitutes a reintroduction of Papin Street. We are, after many, many years of the city grid being taken out of service within the Midtown area, we are reintroducing the city grid here on Iron Hill by way of adding back in Papin, as well as additional access points in and out of the development. The traffic signal includes additional lane widening, as well as additional lanes, especially as we get down to the Chouteau and Grand intersection. And then along Chouteau, we have additional widening, additional lanes, bike lanes, sidewalks, landscaping, street lighting, and pedestrian lighting. And then Spring and Gratiot, since those will be critical access points not only for our development, but also for the redevelopment of the surrounding parcels to the west and to the north, we are upgrading those streets as well.
And again, a question, the new streets in the space, do you expect to dedicate them as become public right of way, or will you be owning them independently?
So those streets will be private, and we actually asked that question with the city street department, and their preference is for those streets to be private.
In terms of, as you know, I'm always interested in ADA compliance, and in terms of how those are designed, I would ask you to be doing that according to the public rights of way guidelines, even though they may not be public rights of way.
Yes, absolutely. We intend to make those fully in compliance with that.
Thank you.
We look at the project as a hub with various spokes coming off of the development, connecting to surrounding neighborhoods and other amenities throughout the area. All roads lead in and out of this development in our mind. So as Brooks mentioned previously, the interconnectivity north and south is critical, and connectivity to the Metrolink station immediately to our north, and having easy access from both that and the Greenway into the site are critical design elements that we want to develop as part of the project. We also see this as being very well connected via the existing roadway systems, as well as other public transportation via buses, to areas such as Cortex, the Grove, obviously the hospital, and the Grand Arch District to the north, and SLU's campus to the north as well. We've made accommodations for connecting to the Chouteau Greenway on both sides, both the east and west sides of our development. There's been a lot of discussion with GRG as to how the Greenway will be extended to the south, but in both Spring and Chouteau have been discussed as potential routes to the south. So we, not knowing at this early stage where that will land, or if it'll land on both sides, we've been able to accommodate both sides as we plan our project, and we see the Greenway as a true amenity to our development. As I mentioned, there's quite a bit of infrastructure related to the project. It's fairly intense, and hence the need for the TIF as we are here today speaking about it. The largest piece of the infrastructure is the parking structure. We see that as a 5-level parking structure accommodating the majority of the parking for the site. And depending on the final build out and uses of the various structures, we see that being up to about 1,500 spaces. We also, as part of the planning of the project, we've done a parking analysis for the overall site, and we generally institute a strategy that has been provided by Urban Land Institute, where mixed use facilities such as this, or developments such as this, different uses share common parking spaces based on various peak times of demand. So the whole purpose of that is to not overbuild the parking. If for example, we were going to provide parking for the entire site in way of surface parking, that number of parking spaces that we're providing currently in the design would take up almost 12 acres of the 14-acre site. But by instituting the strategy with ULI recommendations, we're able to decrease the amount of parking, but also make it way more efficient in terms of land use by concentrating it in the parking structure to the north. Additionally, we've got new traffic signals both at the Papin and Grand intersection, the new traffic signal, and modifications to the traffic signal at Chouteau and Grand. We're also putting in a new northbound left turn lane on Grand so that you can turn left on a Chouteau. Currently you cannot. But then also we've got additional southbound left turn lanes on Grand to help mitigate congestion that happens in that particular intersection at peak hours. As I mentioned, we'll be upgrading Gratiot and Spring with new pavements, sidewalks, landscaping, hardscaping, entrances into the garage and in and out of the development. We feel this is important not just for us, but for the surrounding parcels for potential redevelopments in the future. We have a robust internal street and parking as well as public plaza program that we've designed into the project. The public plaza will be of similar qualities that you've seen in other newer urban developments where they have public gathering spaces with pedestrian lighting, hardscape, other amenities within the plaza, and landscaping, all fully accessible as well. So you can see that once we design and build all these infrastructure improvements, they total a little over $67 million. So a very heavy infrastructure demand for this development. And again, David, to your point, our challenge to our design team, who's very astute and accomplished in doing so, is to make sure that the entire development is accessible. And not only that, we want to implement some creative strategies that make accessible routes almost undetectable. So we're very fortunate in the fact that we have a fairly flat site to begin with, but also we'd like to be able to implement creative ways for people of all abilities and needs to be able to access and navigate through the development easily.
We can offer a lot of suggestions in that area across disabilities if you'd like.
We'd welcome that. Thank you. Next, I'd like to pass the mic over to Tony Ramadani. He'll go over some of the key points on the project financing. Tony? Okay, so I'm not hearing Tony. I'll take the mic back, I guess, and I apologize for that. So just the overall incentive summary that you see on your screen right now, the TIF represents about $60.7 million coming from both the pilots and the EATs. Again, we have eligible costs way beyond that amount, but that is what we see being generated as part of the TIF. In addition to that, we will be implementing a 1% SID sales tax overlay, which equates to about $11 million in proceeds. And then we'd like to, even with those two incentives, we still have a gap that we will be doing a Chapter 100 construction material sales tax rebate, and that equates to about $5.3 million.
So I have a question. In the last presentation, you had a TDD, and I believed, I don't have it in front of me, but the TDD and the CID equaled about $10 million. How did just the CID get to 11 million? Or was I wrong in the last package?
Yes, I believe both the CID and the TDD were between 10 and a million.
Yeah, it was
10 and
10
$11 million a piece.
So how did it go
Yeah,
from elimination to, so did you double the CID or?
No, ma'am. It's still, both of them were 1% each. So they both were in that 10 million or $11 million range. I apologize. I don't have the previous presentation in front of me. So we're sensitive to instituting a TDD as well as you had mentioned in the previous meeting. So we looked for other ways to fill that gap. And one of the opportunities for us was doing the construction material sales tax rebate. So we are not, to answer your question, we are not pursuing a TDD at this time.
Okay, but the math doesn't work for me in understanding that a CID and a TID equal 10 million at the last program, and now the CID equals 11, which I don't, and then you're at 5.3 for construction material sales rebate. So that's 15.3 versus 10 combined previously. So can you help me with the math there?
Yes, I think the confusion is we had 10 million in for a CID last time, and we had $10 million so for the TDD. So a total of $20 million last time.
Are you sure?
Yes, ma'am. They were both 1% sales tax overlays. So for a total of 2%.
Okay, I'm gonna try to pull up the old one. Okay, thanks.
Sure. I'd like to pass the mic over to Larry Marks with Development Strategies. He can get into the cost benefit analysis. Larry?
Thank you, Rob. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
The current taxes on this 14-acre vacant site are extremely minimal at the current time, generating roughly $40,000 for all the different taxing jurisdictions. When over the period of TIF, when all of this construction is implemented, there's sort of a net gain of about $178 million, $178 million. One of the bigger beneficiaries of that, the city of St. Louis itself, which received roughly 63+ million over that period of time. The school, about $20 million. Mix of community mental health and children's service, seniors, etc., about another $900,000. So where before roughly $40,000 a year was being generated on average, it'll be about $7.8 million a year, with all of the taxing jurisdictions benefiting. Then I guess if we can move to the next slide.
Hey, Larry, this is Phil real quickly. That slide you've got now, is that revenue over a 23-year period? Is that what that's showing? Okay,
yes.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's the revenue that would be generated to the over 23, correct.
Okay, thanks.
In addition to just the taxes that are being generated for the various taxing jurisdictions, it's going to be very important the number of jobs that are being generated. As indicated, construction jobs, it's very important, 7 or 8 year build out. The full-time equivalent over that period of time is 2,333, as you can see on the screen, roughly 390 jobs a year, about $21 million payroll. So this is going to be very important in terms of new construction over time. But I think equally, if not more important, are the permanent jobs that will be generated. As you can see, roughly 1,100 permanent jobs generated with a roughly 43,000 average wage. And it's important to note that these jobs will be a variety, which can serve the neighborhood as well as others, from entry-level jobs in terms of restaurant servers and for retail workers, up through managers, so individuals have a chance to come in, be employed, grow a career at this particular location, as well as not only on-site all of these additional jobs. The project should be an important catalyst for other jobs. As Rob showed before, the sites surrounding here have a significant development potential, and with this as sort of a catalyst, other development could occur and should occur that would create jobs. So this is sort of an important key point, as Brooks was talking originally, in terms of the 400-acre plan for Midtown. This was a key site that, if appropriately developed, which is being proposed, really will be a catalyst for a lot of other development in the area. So I believe, Rob, you have the next slide.
Yes, thank you, Larry. We just wanted to clarify a little bit of confusion that may have happened at the last meeting. We do have, we are proposing a total of 6 RPAs within the request. RPA 1 and 2 is planned to proceed initially, and the overall, as we come back to activate subsequent RPAs, I just want to be clear that the overall TIF amount of the 60.7 million does not change. It doesn't increase with each RPA. And in fact, the first 2 RPAs have the lion's share of the infrastructure work that needs to be constructed initially, being the parking structure and all the roadways. And those 2 RPAs generate generally roughly around $35 million worth of bond proceeds. So when we come back for RPAs 3 through 6, that will be activating the time clock, if you will, for the remainder of the $60.7 million bond proceeds. So just in summarizing, we're very excited about the project, obviously, and we're very committed to the community and the neighborhood, as well as the city. We're hoping to be able to transform, a vacant lot into a very vibrant $334 million mixed-use development. Take care of existing environmental issues as part of that, and upgrade public roadways and sidewalks to new roads and sidewalks and new accessible features throughout the development. Where there's no pedestrian connectivity, obviously we want to provide that and have a strong connection to the new Chouteau Greenway. Instead of shipping out retail sales tax to the county, we want to bring those sales tax dollars to the city. So we've got over 140,000 square feet of retail that we plan on doing that. Property tax, there's very little, as Larry mentioned, right now coming off of the development. Obviously, that will expand immensely with the new development. There's no eats right now currently generated. Initially, there will be about 1.9, and then that grows from that point over the years. There's also a property tax that'll be collected on office and hotel and retail furniture, as well as all the jobs that are being generated out of this. Obviously, a vacant lot is generating no jobs, but there's more to like too. Our plan is for energy efficient building systems and having solar ready buildings, as well as car chargers, and having the site fully accessible and being a catalyst for redevelopment of the surrounding parcels. There's ample public and green space that we feel the neighborhood will appreciate and utilize, and just overall having a very urban, dense infill project here, helping connect the communities between the various neighborhoods all around us, and being that hub for visitors. With that, I'd like, yes, ma'am.
I have a question for you. So I was taking notes last night as I was reading this big packet. A couple of questions for you on this slide specifically. So I read the definition of blight and whatnot, but this is 14 acres, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So it says here in the packet that north is First Charter, Oregon, east is the Ace Rental, plus a vacant lot now owned by SLU. Can you tell me, so let me keep going. Then southeast there's Captain D's, then there's Edward Doisy, and then it says former St. Louis Public School Charter School, now SLU admin, which doesn't pay taxes as well either, correct? And then there's let's see, so I'm trying to figure out in this whole parcel and around it, right? Because 15 years ago maybe 15, 17 years ago, SLU decided to cross over to 40 and go over and build that big center that you have over there. So when you look at what SLU and SSM, so this whole, how many acres does SLU own total in this area that is not generating taxes that were on the tax roll? Because the definition of blight was that there's been a decline in taxes as the properties have been selling, and SLU takes it over and basically, I'm not sure, but does not pay taxes on it. And then, so I'm looking at, this isn't just a 14 site. What does SLU own and SSM in that whole area that makes it how many total acreages that have not been on the tax rolls? Because it says you owned it since 2011. However, I don't think that it was a whole acquisition in 2011. I think it was parcels slowly and surely over time, which would have had the decline. So the language in the documentation is a little misleading because it says it SLU, it didn't say that SLU bought these over a 20-year period, right? It just says only since 2011. Maybe the entire 14 acres has been since 2011, but I just wanted to get a clear picture of how many acres of this has SLU been acquiring over time that have been reduced off the tax rolls.
Rob,
sure, I'll let Brooks answer. Yeah.
Thanks, Christina. That's an important question. So the redevelopment area stretches from Laclede Avenue to the north all the way to I-44 to the south. It's a 400-acre redevelopment area, as you mentioned. When we started it in 2017, SLU and SSM Health owned 200 of the 400 acres of the redevelopment area there. What you saw when Father Biondi was the president of SLU is that he, in the late 1980s and 1990s, purchased a lot of property within the Midtown area here. And I think had the foresight or the looking at it that SLU had been here for 200 years and SLU would eventually get to all of this development and be able to build on it. I think what we've realized over the last several years now is that we don't have plans for all of this property here, and we don't have uses for it, at least for the next 50 years. So we are going ahead and selling off a lot of that property and bringing in the private market to it and getting them back on the tax rolls. They were, if they weren't for institutional purposes, they have been, SLU has been paying taxes on them. But as Larry just mentioned, you know, because they're vacant, the taxes aren't very high on them. So this property here is 14 acres that will be sold. There's another 14 acre tract that will be sold at Chouteau and Compton. I mentioned the 48 parcels in the Gate District West neighborhood. There will be another 4-acre property that will be sold as part of that too at Park in Compton. SSM Health went ahead and just sold the old Hopewell building at Park and Grand, 5-story building there. Fortunately, it will not be torn down. SSM Health will actually be looking to sell the old Deloge Hospital, SLU Hospital. So it'll be great to see that building will also not be torn down. And so that will hopefully be sold to the private market in the next year. And then as Rob was talking about here, just to the west of the 14 acres is six acres of property. 4 acres is owned by Patricia Ahrens and has the Rush Truck Center on it now. So that's where you see the semi trucks being held. We're hoping that that is a future, another, you know, dense development that's complementary here. Ameren just donated a 2-acre piece of property just to the north of that. So that is again just to the northwest of this Iron Hill development here. We are hoping that that will become a new development, also a dense development there. And then there's a 14-acre large piece of property where currently buses are being stored and parked just to the north of this site. So as Rob mentioned, it's very important to go ahead and improve Gratiot Street to go ahead and have access to that 14-acre site there. And we are already getting lots of interest from developers for that piece of property because of the Iron Hill development. And just the last one mentioned, you talked about the 2-acre property that's just to the north of Captain D's and Rallies there. SLU also owns that property, and we are going ahead and making sure that this development happens. It is underway, and probably have had about 15 different development interest and offers for that property, but we're waiting to make sure again that this development happens, and whatever happens on that 2 acres is complementary to this development. So it's an exciting time to be a part of this. I love my job because I am able to go ahead and work with the private market and to bring in the investment here that's been a long time needed and a long time coming.
So, okay, so thanks. I appreciate that because it just marked off a bunch of stuff that I had here. So when SLU bought these properties, right, they knew that there was environmental contamination and they knew that the grading was bad and they had this site to try to develop in the future. Why wouldn't have SLU paid out of their pocket to do the EPA environmental remediation instead of it having to go through public use funding? Like, I mean, they're already not paying taxes as an institution. So why would we fund, you know, environmental contamination remediation? I know you're getting brownfield tax credits, but if they've held this property for over 10, 11 plus years, why wouldn't anyone have required them, knowing what they bought was an environmental contaminated property, to be able to do it before you ask for a tax subsidy from taxpayers?
So what I can say on it is this has an interesting history to it. This property, the Cardinals actually owned this property in the 1930s, and they were talking about building their first stadium here. That's soon after the St. Louis Browns actually had a financial hardship and decided to sell Sportsman's Park to them instead. So instead of the Cardinals building there, they ended up purchasing Sportsman's Park and were there till the 1960s. This ended up being really a salvage yard, and there was buses that were stored on here, but it was primarily a salvage yard, and had some light manufacturing buildings and that were part of this. If anyone remembers, over the last 80 years, that's what it was. So SLU, when they purchased it, they went ahead and spent money to go ahead and take down those uses and to clean it up to get it to where it is today, but really did not want to go ahead and take on any other parts of the cleanup until there was a development that happened as part of this to really know what the cleanup, what necessary cleanup should occur.
So what you're saying is this SLU is wanting public subsidies to clean up the environmental contamination they purchased.
So, Christina, this is Rob Lochner. Let me jump in just for a little bit here. There has been, as Brooks mentioned, some amount of cleanup that has occurred over the years. For example, there's been tanks taken out of the various parcels here, and very well documented with MDNR. What remains is some work that we were hoping to be able to get brownfield tax credits to help us with that. However, given that program, the state of that program right now, we're not overly confident that we're even going to be able to get those. So we will still be doing what is required in terms of the cleanup that remains there. However, we're not anticipating this, and this is new news, so I apologize that may still be in the presentation. We're not super confident that we're going to get the tax credits to do that.
Yeah, because it's $1 million out of the entire development, but it doesn't say what the breakout of the cost is of the actual EPA environmental remediation in your uses of funds there.
Right.
And actually, the funds aren't really coming from EPA. They are really state brownfield tax credits.
Yes,
and
I know.
it goes through the DNR. So just to be clear on that.
So Dale, that's the end of our presentation. I'll turn it back to you. If you'd like me to stop sharing my screen, I can do that.
At this point, it would be probably appropriate to see if any of the commissioners have any further questions that they want to present or comments. And then it would be time, I think, for the SLDC to present financial information from our point of view.
And we will mention that Commissioner Hudson and Commissioner Perry are now part of it and have been part of it for over an hour, but I don't know that they weren't in for the initial signing in. So I just want to make sure everyone was aware that they are present as well.
Thank you.
So now I think we can go to Mark Spikerman.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I have, and Zach, I don't know if you can put the 2 slides I had up. I'm Mark Spikerman with Gilmore and Bell. I'm outside counsel to the TIF Commission, and we review the redevelopment plan and make sure it complies with the TIF Act. I have reviewed it. It does comply with the TIF Act. In particular, I'll note Development Strategies did prepare a blight study of the property, and that study does support a finding that the area, should the commission and ultimately the Board of Aldermen agree, that it be a blighted area under the TIF Act. This TIF plan in particular is a little bit different than what we usually see. And that's because most of the TIF plans the city sees have one redevelopment project area. This TIF plan creates 6 redevelopment project areas. The effect of that is that it allows us to stagger when the 23-year TIF clock starts in each project area. The developer is proposing that project areas 1 and 2 start first, and then 3 through 6 be enacted later. As you can see from the slide, that means we're probably coming back to the TIF Commission for activation of RPAs 3 through 6. This would be similar to what we do for those of you who've been on the commission in prior years, what we've done when Cortex activates or approves their RPAs. There's a resolution before the TIF Commission. That resolution recommends that the Board of Aldermen approve the plan, designate the entire redevelopment area as a redevelopment area, and that it approve RPAs 1 and 2. We've also reviewed, you can go to the next slide, Zach. We've also reviewed the plan in light of the TIF Commission's policies that they've adopted. Those policies, you can see from the slide, more or less are satisfied here. I will note the amount of TIF assistance slightly exceeds the TIF Commission's preference, although there is a exception if there's a significant jobs component, and obviously with a project this size, there would be many, many jobs created. We also note that the TIF Commission's policies state that TIF assistance for public infrastructure is favored, and that in this case, the amount of money that the developer is expecting to spend on public infrastructure exceeds the amount of the TIF request. Happy to answer any questions regarding the legal review or the policy review.
I am curious about that last point. If, for example, the parking garage is part of the infrastructure, that's still a private piece of property, right? That's not public infrastructure, at least unless public changes meaning halfway through the sentence.
Public use, and Rob, I'm sure, can comment more on the public use aspect of the garage.
I mean, that answers my question. When, just in terms of your slide, what you're saying is public use infrastructure as opposed to publicly owned infrastructure.
Right. There will be, significantly publicly owned infrastructure as well. Rob's presentation pointed out, various, particularly around the perimeter of the site, all the roadway, signalization, sidewalk improvements that need to happen.
Right.
So this TIF goes over by 3-point-something% over the guidelines, correct?
Correct.
So that would be, to get it to 15% would be an extra $10-11 million, correct?
I'm not sure. Are you saying in project costs or reduction?
Well, in total project costs, right? So if this is, I'm looking at the old one because I'm looking at 2 different screens here. So you're what, at 334.5 million? I'm looking at the old one. I can't look at the new one because I just went, sorry, I stepped away to get another cup of coffee. So to get it to 15% to our compliance, right? Would that equal a $10 to $11 million additional equity that would get us to our guidelines?
Not the 15% is not measured by equity. It's measured by total cost. So if there are, and I'm just typing in the math here real quick.
7 million.
Yeah, I mean, if they spent if they had cost overruns and spent additional project costs, then at the end of the day, you may be in that 15% range or under. The amount of the TIF assistance is capped, though, even if they have those cost overruns.
Well, it's capped at what they're asking for at 18%, correct? Not capped at 15.
It is a hard cap of $60.7 million, regardless of whether they spend $334 million or $434 million.
So I guess let me rephrase my question. So the 60.7, what would it go down to in order to get the TIF to be at 15%?
Let's see. Looks like a little bit over 50 million.
15? 1-5?
50.
Oh, 50.
I'm expecting that John Ferry's report is going to elaborate further on that area.
Yes. John has his scorecard and has reviewed the appropriateness of the TIF ask.
Let me also point out that we have, and maybe we probably should not have in the past, but we were looking for a guideline. So the 15% is a guideline and it's not a cap. And so we talked about things that we look at to see whether or not we can waiver, and one of them is public infrastructure. In this case, we are reintroducing the city. I call it the city grid, but we're also making improvements around it, around the site, along with the signalization. And if in the current scenario, what we have is also providing parking for this area, and it is currently free to in the scheme that they are looking at. And so I think while this is higher than the traditional or at least the policies that we've had, which is 15, that is not that much over given the amount of work that that they anticipate on this site and the potential revenue gain to the city. So I just point that out before we let John and Matt come up.
Okay, Otis, question for you. Maybe I missed in the presentation, but I know in the last presentation, when we discussed the parking garage, they said they would make a certain percentage or a certain number of parking spaces free to the public. It is not. So did I miss it today that says that this is not going to be a totally free parking garage to the public?
Well, I'll let them speak to the garage. I think
that's a big difference with X amount for the percentage of the public versus 100%.
Yeah, I think that there will be some cost associated with that. So I'm probably speaking out of school. I'll let the development team speak to that.
Okay, thanks.
Otis, would you like me to address that now?
Yeah, please.
So appreciate the comment, and we've spent some time thinking about our parking strategy for the development. And obviously we're in a very active location here with lots of different uses around us. So one of the factors that we considered as part of how we're going to manage the garage, for example, is that we want to be able to encourage retail visitors or customers to come to the site and make it easy for them to come to the site. But also we want to be able to preserve those parking spaces for people that are using the site and not for folks that may be trying to park there for free and use Metrolink or go to work across the street somewhere. And so what we're anticipating is a validation system where the first 2 to 3 hours of parking within the garage would be free. And then after that, we'd charge a nominal fee. Maybe it's $2 an hour for those folks that are visiting the center and using the various retailers or whatever other event may be happening there at the time. So yes, there will be some amount of parking that is free. A large amount of it will be free for certain periods of time. However, we just need to be able to accommodate everyone that is coming to the site or working at the site or living at the site without overbuilding the parking. So that's currently the plan for that parking garage.
So I believe we're now ready to move to the presentation, SLDC's presentation on the financing.
All right, can everybody hear me? This is John.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So Zach is going to, yeah, he's got the report pulled up there. Since everyone probably can't read this report, what we're gonna flip to, I've sent a couple of sort of zoomed in versions of this report. So Zach, if you could go to the part 1 piece that I had mentioned.
Do you see it, John?
Yeah, that looks like the sources and uses. Can you do the other one, the one that's got the break-even analysis on it? There you go. So this project, the way, based on the inputs that we received and which we have worked to try and make sure that they are, you know, relatively conservative. We're showing that that this project would generate over 10 years to the city about $4.4 million and about just under $4 million to the school district over the first 10 years. That is just slightly below what the neighborhood average is for this area for a site that would be this size. But then over 20 years, it would generate $15.4 million of fiscal benefit to the city and $13.9 million of benefit to the school district, which far exceeds the neighborhood average over that time period. It exceeds it by about $6.9 million to the city and $6.2 million to the school district. The break-even analysis, as you can see, is that starting with that third line there, the replacement project window, it would take approximately, if we were able to get a neighborhood average project that did not require any incentives, that number there, the number 1, indicates that we could essentially wait 1 year in order to get such project and still be, I guess, better off, if you will, over the first 10 years. But then past a year, you're starting to, this project would outperform. So in other words, it's not a very big window in time, meaning that that would recommend that we move forward with this project. The sustainable revenue target is achieved in year 16, and then the neighborhood average break even on a cumulative basis is achieved in year 17 with this project, and the TIF would be projected to pay off in 2039. As you guys have discussed, the present value of the TIF incentive is about $60.7 million, which is 18.1% of the total project cost. When the it's not shown on here, but whenever the construction sales tax exemption is added in, it increases to about 19.6, 19.7%. Going to the middle of that, or to the right side of that page, the developer return analysis shows that without any incentive, this project generates an unlevered IRR of 3.1% over 10 years and increases to 5.8% with the incentive. Both of those numbers are below sort of like the range of market returns that that our data is showing for mixed use projects like this. The project score that this gets is a 4 out of 5, or more specifically 32.7 out of 40. So it does get a passing recommendation from our analysis. Zach, you can flip to the sources and uses now. So this is just a breakdown of the sources and uses. You can see that where basically the funding is coming from. The incentive amount is listed there. To clarify on the SID, that it is $11 million. The prior to the change, it was $20.5 million when the SID and the TDD were both on there. I had pulled that up when the question was asked earlier. Primary debt amount is $155.7 million. The secondary debt amount is the amount that we spent on the future phase of the hotel. And then you've got developer equity of about $52 million. And that other amount is the estimated amount of the construction sales tax savings. Then you can see that the use of funds there, the breakdown. Zach, you can flip to the graph real quick.
Before, can you go back?
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. So why do we include development investor equity at 51 million and deferred development, which is about 20 something million? So really, why do we include the deferred development fee, developer fee in the equity portion, which distorts to me the numbers, because they're going to take that money, whether we like it or not. They're going to get their fee. So that drops it down to 30, let's say $30 million in actual equity in the project, which, makes it less than less than 10% of the total financing cost. So I just want to be transparent and really show the numbers, because that's not truly a equity number. The deferred developer fee is not an equity number. It's not as subordinated to anything. And so I just wanted to make sure. And then the 5.2 is the other, which is that the rebate on the construction?
That's the abatement, right?
That's the abatement. So that really is, I wouldn't consider that equity either. So I just wanted to just,
it's a source. It's not equity. It's just a source. That's not equity.
Right.
The savings.
But that's your sources. But your deferred developer fees is that a source?
No. Well, the deferred developer fee is can be considered part of equity. Part of that is because the developer fee is going to be partially overhead. And then also, obviously, as you mentioned, part of the developer fee is also going to be developer profit. Generally speaking, developer fee overhead cost is going to be anywhere between 4 and 5% of total project cost. So you're looking at probably 12 to 14 $1 million probably of that developer fee is actually overhead cost. So yeah, so I would say probably 7 million or so, 7 to 9 million or so of developer fee, just on a guesstimate, would be profit to the developer. But we do take that amount and we include it in the in calculating the rate of return to the developer is the way that we account for it.
I think Matt Bauer may also have some feedback on that topic as well. So Matt. Matt Bauer, are you there?
I'm good. We can go to the next slide. Thanks.
Is this the one you're talking about, John, or the next one?
Yeah, let's show that one, the one with the green line on it. So this is just a graph showing the revenues coming to the city from this project. You can see there that basically the neighborhood average, which is that blue line that's kind of obscured there by the gray dotted line. The blue line, so the gray dotted line is the city average for commercial properties, and the neighborhood average is almost right in line with the city average, maybe slightly below. And so this project, up until the TIF essentially pays off, is sort of running just underneath the neighborhood average, but then shoots far above. But one of the things I wanted to point out here is the difference between that yellow line and the green dotted line is the amount of revenue that we have subtracted off for the substitution effect. So if you guys recall, the substitution effect is just the revenues that are coming into the project, but we think are probably not new to the city. I just wanted to show you this because I think this gives an example of the degree of conservatism that we're using in trying to estimate these numbers. So anyway, that concludes my presentation. So I'll just...
Jonathan, go back one slide, please.
Can you go back, Zach?
Okay, so on this one, right? And here's what I'm trying to get at, which I haven't been able to get at, is we always say that these projects are going to pay off in 15 to 17 years, yet I haven't seen a single one that has been proven in some type of form like this to show us that they actually paid off in 17 years, right? So when we say the fiscal benefit to the city over 10 years or 20 years, we say this is hypothetical given the developer's projected, if the pie in the sky is what we want to get, then this is what we're going to project to the city in 10 years and in 20 years, right? And unfortunately, we don't have anything to compare to when we come to these TIF meetings. We have no historical data that say something similar, or project X was given the same amount of TIF and that project paid off in, 18 years versus what we projected 15, or maybe it took 20 versus, what we projected at 7. And lo and behold, the fiscal benefit to the city or to the school district out exceeded our expectations or shortchanged our city and our school districts by X. We should have learned from that one, but here's what we're going to do differently on this one. I don't see any of that analysis in the, while we're projecting, the situation of retail has changed in the last 3 months. And so if we're still using the same numbers on a cash flow basis and all these returns based on historical pie in the sky, how have these numbers been adjusted and tested for? So, I mean, what is the, what if they only get 65 to 70% of their projected revenue based on their financials and cash flow? What does this look like? What would the scoring look like? And that's what I would like to see, is not this pie in the sky project grade score that says this is what, on a cash flow basis, this is what the, developer, where is the numbers that show us this is what the developer's saying, and this is technically what we're saying, and this is the worst case scenario if we looked at it, given that 75% of what they're projecting comes to fruition. And this no longer pays off in 17 years, but it takes 23 years, and we never see that benefit until actually the payoff. So, I mean, I just think that we keep presenting the pie in the sky.
I have done a stress test version of this. It's not in the presentation, but I can give you what the numbers look like. I've also, just to sort of give an indication of, I don't think that we're being pie in the sky with the numbers that we're using. Obviously, the developer gives us their estimates, but for example, on the office vacancy, we used a 20% vacancy rate on the base numbers. I think that the rent rates, for example, which largely influence what the property taxes are going to be, there's a possibility that they could end up being a little bit lower, perhaps, but we did try to make sure that we were using numbers that we thought were not, best case scenario by any means. But, with that said, what I did for a stress test is I assume that for the entire period of the project, basically the TIF, the 23 years, that retail sales would drop by 20% from the baseline projections. Overall retail sales would drop by 20%, and that food and beverage sales would drop by 40%. And I assume that the rents would drop by 20%, and that the vacancy rate would tick up to about 25% on the office portion. And when I did that, the revenue to the city over 20 years was $9.7 million as opposed to the $15 million number. But the project actually still scores at about the 3.75 out of 5 range, just because of the amount of overall revenue. The TIF would pay off in 2042 as opposed to the other one, which was 2039. So it's an extra 3 years, but it still would be projected to pay off even under that scenario.
Yeah, I think for public sake and transparency, we need to really show some type of stress test so that we can compare to what it is based on what the developer's presenting and what you're presenting, and then versus a stress test scenario. Because, I haven't seen where anything that tells us that what we projected, whether 20 years ago or 15 years ago, was going to be a net positive to the city of X, has actually come to fruition and Y. We can't even get those numbers to be able to show some type of economic benefit to the city on any of these based on our projections. And so I'd love for us to going forward saying this is the best case scenario, this is what we're approving it on, and this is the stress. scenario? And what if the hotel doesn't come in? What does that do to, you know, to this whole development and its revenues? So, I mean, I'd like a little more footnotes and a little more stress test to be able to show that we have looked at it and that we're not just taking at face value, you know, what I consider pie in the sky, because I haven't seen anything that proves that what we projected actually has come to fruition in any of these TIFs.
Well, let me jump in and just say that we are in the process of doing just that, in the sense that we hired someone to work with our team. You know, so it's been a few years since we've actually been doing these analysis to the degree that we are with when we hired John and then Matt. Now Alex is on that team. So we are doing that for the purpose of transparency. And so the fact that we have, that based on the data that we are getting from the developer, we have a tremendous amount of data that, as John has indicated, that we run through stress, and that we are able to show and answer to on these things. And so I think that we are doing just that, Christina, in the sense that we may need to do better with the transparency part of that, in the sense that what we're trying to build with the various initiatives that Matt and Alex are working on is to try and have something that would show that to the public where we are at any given time. But I do think that we prepare reports to the Board of Aldermen every year that show where we are as far as TIFs and whether or not they are in fact performing as they should. And we have a lot of them that aren't, but we have some that are. And so, you know, so yes, we are aware of that. But I think in the last 3 or 4 years, almost all of the things that we've been doing have been scrutinized to the nth degree, and that we have used substitution effects. We've used the stress test. We've done all those things. But I think what we have at this point built a model that people can really, I won't say trust, but they can understand that we have not just looked at this and said, yeah, okay, this is what the developer is what his sources are, and these are what his uses are, and oh, this looks pretty good. We are looking at this more from what is the benefit to both the school district, to the city, and to the citizens. And so I think that that we are doing that. I'm not sure that just using these mathematical models that we can do any more than what we're doing. So, but I'm going to maybe let Matt Bauer or either Dale or anyone else comment, and maybe they can help me explain what we are doing.
So Otis, that brings me to the next question. You transitioned perfectly into my next question. And okay. I believe it's on page 28 of the presentation that talks about that every year you submit reports, and after 5 years after a TIF, you submit a detailed report to see where they are based on projections. And where is that information public? And we as TIF commissioners have never seen those type of reports that show that we can be able to look at it and say, hey, these were done 5 years ago. This is where we are in a percentage of completion, or where they're projected and they're, above or behind their, what we, again, comes back to the same question is, if you.
It's presented every year to the Board of Aldermen. So I'll let Dale speak to the report, or he and his team, they can talk to that.
Okay.
Yes, every year we have a public hearing. We advertise that public hearing. In fact, we're required to advertise it 4 times, each of 4 different weeks. And then we have a public hearing before the HUD's committee, where all the projects that are celebrating a 5-year anniversary are presented. And there's an opportunity for the public to interact, an opportunity for the HUD's committee to react one way or another and ask questions. And then that is in the form of a bill that eventually gets approved by the Board of Aldermen. So that happens every year. It happened, November is generally the time frame. November, December is when we do that. And that happened last November of this year, and it was approved by the board.
I think to her point, though, is if we aren't I was thinking that we shared it with the TIF Commission, or at least provide a copy. If we aren't doing that, then
No,
we will.
are. No reason we haven't, but we haven't done it. We'd be happy to do it.
Yeah, let's provide them with a copy of those reports.
Sure.
I think it would bring us full circle to be able to know what we approved, where it is. And I mean, as commissioners, we get questions all the time, right? And so it would give us the ability to inform people to say, you know, again, I never knew that there were meetings every November. I've never seen a report. We've never been CC'd on it. And so to give us full just transparency as well, if we're approving these, we should know where they are every several years. So if you can send me November's report, as well as invite us to those hearings or meetings, so that we can come full circle as well on what we do to sit on this commission.
Sure, we'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Okay, and then I'd like to, let me intercede here. All of this is important, and I agree, but we're spending a lot of time on it. And I really would like to get back to the resolution, the application that we're dealing with today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Hudson, did you want to say something other than thank you?
No, just thank you, because time is limited here, and I'm really needing for this to move on.
Okay. Okay, so at that point, is there more that the staff wants to present, or should I be moving to the auditor in the city?
I think it's time for Vladimir Monroe to talk about minority participation and
good.
The history of that in this project. And there's a slide related to that.
Good morning. I'm Vladimir Monroe, the Director of Minority Business Development and Compliance for SLDC. My team is responsible for the management of the enterprise on this project, as well as ensuring the workforce is also adhered to on this project as well. So typically when it comes to the workforce portion, we turn that over to Slate. Charles Williams, who's on our team, but the official liaison for Slate, will be speaking on the workforce and boots on the ground component. So Clayco is the general contractor on this project. In the time that we've been utilizing GPTS, we have 2 projects that Clayco has been involved in that we've been monitoring. The first project is 100 North Kings Highway. That one is still an active project. It's a $100 million project, so there's a lot of room for that one. That anticipated completion date for that, Sandra, please correct me if I'm wrong, I believe is July of 2021, if I'm not mistaken. So there's still a little over a year to go before.
No, Vlad, on Kings Highway, it's more like the end of this year.
End of this year, excuse me.
Yes.
So December of this year will be when that project will be complete. Granted, everything stays consistent where we are today. The other project that we have that we've formally closed is 6105 Delmar. That was a Clayco production as well. So we've actually been conversing back and forth with Sandra Marks and her team at Clayco to talk about where they are in that project and what we have reported. So one of the things that we had a challenge with is getting some of the smaller contractors to come back and provide us with the formal statement of or the final lien waivers in which they've been paid. Oftentimes after you've been paid, you tend to forget what you're doing or forget that you've been paid on that project and just keep moving ahead to the next project. So there's been some challenges with that. So we've had to rely heavily upon some of the information we've been provided to by Clayco. So Clayco and us have come up with their MBE goals on that project were 21M and 1% W. That was also under the guidelines of the 25 and 5 as well. So this will be the first project that we have under Clayco in which the new ordinance will be adhered to. Thanks. So with that, I'll turn this over to Charles Williams, and he can speak on the, unless you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns about the enterprise, I can turn this over to Charles, and he can speak about the workforce.
Thank you, Vlad. As Mr. Monroe has shared, we've only had the two projects, 6105 Delmar and 100 North Kings Highway, which were tax abatements, and workforce was not required on those two. But as we do an aggregate of those two projects, they are trending at 21% apprentices, about 14% minority, and 4% women, and 4% on city residents. With the apprentice goals, it's 15%. With the minority goal, it is 25%. And with the women goals, it's 5%. With city residents, it's 4%. We will work with Clayco in order to reach the boots on the ground and workforce goals.
So right now, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, we'll definitely entertain those.
I think I'd like you to make sure that we get copies of these reports. I don't think they were in our packet, and I'd like to look at it a little bit more closely.
Yes, sir. We can, Zach has them, so we'll just make sure that he gets those out to you.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions? Hearing none. Dale, does that then take us to the comptroller?
Well, at this point, why don't we have the open hearing, and then we can then have both the mayor and the comptroller if we choose to.
I mean, I did declare it was an open hearing at the very beginning, but it is an open hearing.
Yeah, but I mean to have the public participation.
Yes, it's time for the public response, and the only individual that emailed me, which was part of the instructions, saying that he would like to speak, is Jerry Connolly. So he would certainly be the first person to speak under the public response section. So Jerry, if you're on, please speak.
Good morning. Am I unmuted? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I've got a couple, well, I'll just kind of run through kind of some very general comments. First thing I'd like to make is just kind of going back to Commissioner Bennett's comments about the annual TIF progress bill. You know, I did sit through and listen to some of those hearings and the discussion at the full Board of Aldermen. That bill was approved at the board, but my understanding is that Mayor Cruzen did not sign it, or she actually, I'm not sure the mechanism for vetoing, but that bill was returned to the board. So at the moment, the board meet on Monday, and I don't know whether they plan to take this up again, but basically the kind of 2019/20 TIF progress bill has not you know, become an ordinance. It has not been finally approved. Just moving on to this specific project, I again want to kind of echo the concerns raised by Commissioner Bennett about the cost of the structured parking. When we talk about it being free, it's really not free to anybody. You know, the public are, you know, city taxpayers by, you know, by the fact that the revenue, by the fact that the TIF is diverting money from schools and city services, you know, the taxpayers are supporting, you know, a parking structure. And based on some of the figures that have been cited in these hearings before, $30,000 a parking space multiplied by 1,500 cars comes out to about $45 million. And I'm perfectly happy to be corrected if I'm, you know, if I'm off on that. And you know, if the overall infrastructure is 67 million, you know, I'd really like to know what proportion is covered by the cost of the garage. Again, I mean, I kind of feel like a broken record on some of this, but
having been to TIF Commission meetings for about 3.5 years, this is possibly the 8th or 9th project in that time. And of the projects that have a residential component, not one of them, not a single project has had any affordable housing proposed by the developer or then kind of mandated through the Board of Aldermen. Some of those include, the Jefferson Arms, that's, that's stalled, it's never started. Another one was the Hibernia project at 6300 Clayton. So again, I'd urge the commission to seriously consider, a resolution at this hearing that would be to recommend that to the Board of Aldermen that this not be approved without an affordable housing component. I think on the financial analysis component, Mr. Ferry kind of alluded to the substitution effect of retail spending that happens elsewhere. And, I know that's accounted for in the financials, but, basically there are surrounding small and mid-sized businesses that are going to lose business directly because of this project. And while I heard that, SLU Redevelopment Corporation, held off on the project until kind of City Foundry and the Armory were in progress. Well, the Armory has got a new roof and windows, but has not had any construction inside. And I don't know whether they've got office or other tenants committed to that project, but it sounds to me like this is going to be in, direct competition to something that's, literally 3/4 of a mile away. So those are the main concerns I'd like to raise. If any of you have questions that you'd like me to clarify, I guess, well, one final point is, we don't know what the new normal is going to be when we emerge, and hopefully we will emerge, but when we emerge from the COVID-19 pandemic. And while the stress test on the project looks like the difference isn't huge, but we have no idea what retail shopping habits, outdoor dining, the hotel industry is in distress, and some of the hotels developed downtown, they've already sought and received, assistance through the federal government on the payroll protection program. But it really makes me question, will the hotel be a viable part of this project? And if it isn't, what are the overall ramifications for the project?
Thank you. I believe Daniel Pate is the next speaker.
Yes, anyone there?
Yes, we can hear you.
Fantastic, thanks, I appreciate it. I apologize up front for any background noise that might happen. I've got children and dogs home with me right now. A couple questions that I had or points to bring up. I think it's fantastic that the SLU organization is going to work on African-American businesses and minority-owned businesses occupying the developed area. I'm wondering where what the budget is for that, and how that can be guaranteed that will be followed through on for the whole TIF procedure. A couple of things I was taking a look at is it seems like the TIF percentage or TIF amount is going to be based off of the entire project. However, only RPA 1 and 2 are going right now. So would that make the percentage something more like 60 or 70% if RPA 3, 4, 5, 6 don't happen? Is there anything in place for assuring that the entire development goes and not just the first couple parts, and then the TIF is issued based on that? It looked in the financial analysis like there was a $15.2 million acquisition, and I was wondering if all of the 14 acres comes from SLU, if they've owned it for a period of time, how how much did they pay for it? And it seems like they're going to be reaping a lot of the benefit from the development. Could they not contribute the land and defer their payment on the acquisition costs? That would probably lower the total project costs and help out everyone with it. Another question real quick. There is TIF legislation that I think is either in committee or going through the state that would allow some of the revenues to be used outside of the TIF district, so that this project could potentially have a way broader impact on the entire city. I think something that we might want to look at is finding out where that legislation is and not approving any projects or delaying things, so that legislation, when it hopefully is approved, could be used, and these funds could be used elsewhere in the city to improve everything. I just think that it's really important to look at from a racial equity point of view in our city. Does this forward the action beyond just 25 and 5 of minority and women business participation? How does it contribute to the racial equity score of the entire city? Doing development incentives right in the central corridor. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. Are there any other, I do not believe anyone else is in the Q&A session. But there have been some written responses, and I'll mention those. There have been 6 individuals that have submitted written comments, all in favor of the project, including Lavanya Nayapathy, who lives in the Gate District West area, Kelvin Settle, who lives in the Gate District West area, was born and raised there at least, Dennis Corrigan, who has a company nearby, Corrigan Mechanical Contractors. They've been in business for 124 years, and they support the project. Rita Buckley, who lives in the Terry Park neighborhood. John Perry Mitchum, who lives in the Tiffany neighborhood. And Sean Mullins Wade, who's treasurer of the Gate District West neighborhood. All of those wrote comments supporting the project. We also have a couple of people who have written in questions about the project, and I will address those two. The first is from a Greg Lapata, and he states that he is a resident of the city, and that his question is that in many ways the Iron Hill Development Project contribute to a more equitable future for the St. Louis region by intentionally reducing racial and economic disparity in our community. Will the project actually accomplish this? And aside from those involved in the actual work of the project, how will people living in the surrounding community of the project area benefit? And what steps will be taken to ensure an inclusive approach that involves local residents? He also is wondering whether the community benefit agreement will be part of the process of approving funding, and if so, what this might look like. Is a community development agreement not included, and why? Those were his questions. I don't know if the developer might want to respond to that before I go to the second individual that has submitted questions.
Dale, it's Rob Lochner.
Thank you.
I'd like Rob Preston to speak, and then perhaps Brooks as well.
Sure, you bet. Good morning, everyone. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
These are good questions. I appreciate them being sent in. As far as the community benefit agreement piece goes, developer is opening to considering that. But I would note that, of course, in connection with the approval of the plan, we will be entering into a redevelopment agreement with the city, and those typically include many of the same points that we would see in a community benefit agreement, including participation and compliance with all applicable executive orders and ordinances concerning workforce, WMBE requirements, participation with Slate in terms of hiring full-time jobs at the site. I'd note as well that this project, as noted at the beginning, is within the St. Louis Midtown Redevelopment Corporation. And that group has, as Brooks noted earlier, is kind of taking has committed to achieving the goals that were mentioned in the question. And Brooks highlighted some of that at the beginning, but we view that the plan, then our parcel development agreement with SLU would cover most of these points as well. Brooks, did you want to highlight any of the efforts you guys have made? I know it's really impressive.
Yeah, I just wanted to say again, with the community benefits agreement that has been signed, it not only is any private developments that happen within the area, but actually St. Louis University and SSM Health have also agreed to meet the city's requirements for minority participation, and have done that on all the projects so far. It was mentioned, I guess, a question too about the Habitat for Neighborhood Business program. So it's been great so far. Cullinan and their team, their leasing team, has met with the Habitat for Neighborhood Business program, has talked about what the potential of some of those businesses possibly moving into the development. And it's, may take both Cullinan, having some subsidized rents or some lower rents for them. But then there's also some additional funding that we've located that could help kind of fill in those gaps for those business owners to move into the development.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. There was another question from Joseph Havis. He's a resident of the Gate District East area on Rutgers Street. And his question is rather similar. My question is related to resources. Understandably, there is benefit to the city related to a TIF credit because it provides incentive for developers to build inside our city. That development brings more people to our communities, creating greater tax and tax revenue opportunities. I would simply like to know what citizens will receive for their investment. Since citizens are accepting the lost tax revenue, what have the developers committed to our community in return for our tax benefit? He has another question, but maybe you want to respond to that. Again, it's not unlike the last one.
Sure, this is Rob Preston again. I'm counsel for the developer. This keys back to the discussion that we had previously with John Ferry, that the return on investment to the city is set forth in his report. And as Commissioner Bennett noted, it's been, he went back to the stress test version of that and thinks that over the term of this, there will be a investment in the community or a return on investment in favor of the community. And also, as noted, that report shows sort of the direct benefit from the project. It doesn't get into any of the indirect benefits that would also flow from this project. Those include things like benefiting businesses and supporting, catalyzing growth in adjacent neighborhoods, business-to-business sales. So the businesses, for example, within the city that supply those businesses that move into this particular redevelopment area, those as well would supplement the revenue flowing from this project and inuring to the benefit of the city. Also, as mentioned previously, some of the investment of this project back into the city has to do with just the infrastructure. The TIF dollars that are being spent are going into, by and large, either public improvements or public use improvements, rather than vertical construction of private improvements. So I would classify that as a kind of an investment in the city as well, in addition to just the great amenities and programming that's going to be available from the end product here. Rob, did you have anything you wanted to?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. You touch on it, and I appreciate the question as well. Clearly, the roadway system improvements that we're making there will help mitigate various traffic problems that currently exist on especially Grand and Chouteau. I think one of the other benefits to the city, obviously, are great career opportunities, jobs with upward mobility that can help people improve their own lives and make good careers for them within the city. There's obvious tax benefits as well, but also just the variety of services and amenities. I know that when we reached out to a lot of the surrounding neighborhoods, and some of the support letters certainly support this comment, is that they're very excited about having various retailers and or entertainment and restaurant venues at this site, so that they don't have to travel 15-20 minutes to go to those types of places. The other thing I would say would be a direct benefit to the city is tying in the Greenway to our site as well. So we're certainly going to do our part to participate in that program. We know it's critical to the growth in the area, and we see it as a benefit not just for us, but for the entire city.
Good. Let me just ask a related question that Joseph Havis had. He states that he had read page 6 of the TIF redevelopment plan and accepts that there are challenges in purchase price in the area, but also understands that there is a reasonable likelihood that it wouldn't offset an ability to make money on the property. So is there commitment by developers to take specific action to reinvest portions of this benefit back into the community? I think that's already more or less been addressed, but maybe you can respond to that part of the question as well.
Who are you asking to respond to?
Well, the developer, yeah.
So I'm not quite clear on the question, Dale. What our investment is in the community as a result?
I think that again he's asking what commitments have the developer made that they will reinvest part of the profits they make essentially back into the community.
Sure. No, that's a good question too. We appreciate that. So one of the strategies we have with the program, with the project, obviously, is our various programming that we do on site, but also we feel strongly about the old adage that all rising tides lift all boats. And so what we're hoping to be able to do with the success of our project, whether we're doing it or we're encouraging others to do it, would be to expand our program to other surrounding parcels and be able to invest in those types of projects that would be complementary to this development. So some of those parcels we showed you earlier on in the presentation, that would be something that we would be very interested in reinvesting in the future.
Good, thank you.
And I think it's important to also note that, again, that this 14-acre parcel is part of the 400-acre parcel, 400-acre development that is Midtown, and that there are some specific goals that are in that Midtown has that this project will help fulfill overall. And so in doing that, it also helps fulfill a lot of goals in the city. But let me also say that I go back to some of the comments that were and questions that were earlier that we didn't address immediately. And one of them was concerned that dollars here that are not essentially we are taking dollars from the school district and we're taking dollars from other taxing districts in this project. And so I go back to remind everyone that what we had here was 14 acres of vacant land that has been vacant for more than a decade and only paying property tax for the most part, $40,000. And so what we are about to have happen here with the construction of this project is that we're going to see more taxes to all of the taxing districts, but also to the city, even though we are also sharing in some of the taxes with the developer to get some of the infrastructure done around this site. So I always harken back to the idea that in order for the city to succeed, we have to have some investment in trying to move it ahead. But we have to also make sure that there is a fair return and that the city is getting a fair return, as well as allowing the developer to have a reasonable return on the development. I think that's the basic principle that we have here. And if this development is providing some of the services and things that are missing currently in the city, and that we're picking up some of the, I call it the lost taxes that we have, in the sense that we bleed taxes into St. Louis County and surrounding areas only because we don't have the products to provide those services, that this is one of those things that can. So I just want to be sure and put that on the table.
Good. Now, if there's anyone else out there that has not been able to speak through Zoom, I can provide you the cell phone number of our moderator, and you're welcome to call into her if you have additional comments. And that cell phone number is 657-3708. 657-3708. So if there are any additional people that would like to participate in the public response at this time, you're welcome to call in. Meanwhile, let me just for the record mention some of the publications that we have already done as required by the state statute. We're required 45 days before today, at least 45 days, to notify all the taxing districts. You know, there are 10 or 12 of those that this hearing was going to take place. And we notified them on March 18th that this hearing would occur. And then we sent a follow-up letter to them, a certified letter, on April 3rd, indicating that we would not be able to access the building per se, but that the public hearing would be available on Zoom. Similarly, we advertised this public hearing on March 27th, 2020, and then revised that advertisement on the 5th of March.
5th of April.
I'm sorry, 5th of April, sorry. And then the first publication, and that was advertising for redevelopers. And then we had our first other public notice on the 26th of March, and we revised that one on the 4th of April, 2020, notifying that we'd be doing it by Zoom. And then we required the draft redevelopment plan to be submitted to SLDC and available to the public, and that occurred on March 27th. We notified the property owners, and of course, in this case, it's St. Louis University, on March 27th as required, that this public hearing would occur. And again, a revised letter to the property owner on April 3rd that the hearing would occur by Zoom. And then we had our second publication, and by then we knew it was going to be by Zoom. So that second publication that was in the newspaper was on April 9th, and that's required to be less than 10 days before this public hearing. That occurred on April 9th, last week of 2020. So while I was reading that off to the record, do we have any additional telephone calls? We're checking that now.
We don't, but we do have two questions via the chat from Miriam Townsend. She'd like to know, has there been any effort to collaborate with the taxing agencies that will lose money because of the TIF given to for-profit companies? And as a follow-up, she'd also like to know, would a percentage of the new housing be affordable for teachers, police, firemen, and other employees working in St. Louis but living in Illinois or St. Louis County?
Well, the first question relates to what I just said, and that is that all the answer to that is that all the taxing districts have been notified of this public hearing and received that notice, and were aware that this would happen, and that those taxing districts have a representative that has been appointed to this commission. That individual has not chosen to join us today, but William Jackson was the representative for the other taxing districts on this particular Tax Increment Financing Commission. The second question was, I'm sorry.
Also, would a percentage of the new housing be affordable for teachers, police, firemen, and other employees working in St. Louis, but living in Illinois or St. Louis County?
I think that's been addressed in the process, but I'll let the developer respond to that.
Thanks, Dale. I think a lot of this can probably be answered most comprehensively by Brooks. The SLU 353, as you mentioned at the beginning, has had robust community involvement with various stakeholders. Before I hand it over, I don't believe that the program for the development includes any low-income housing. However, in conjunction with the 353, we've taken a look at the surrounding area and think that there's housing stock, mixed housing stock available. Brooks, are you able to speak to those points?
Well, I think first we'd love to see any St. Louis County or Illinois folks moving into the area. That would be great. We welcome them. We are, as I mentioned previous at the beginning of the session, we have 40 new homes that are coming into the area that will be built along with 12 condos. Habitat for Humanity will be building 7 of those homes. SLU is selling that property to Habitat for Humanity at a very reduced cost. We are taking the proceeds from those developments there and putting them back into the neighborhood in terms of home repair assistance. There's about 32 existing longtime African-American homeowners there in the neighborhood. So we're creating a home repair assistance program. And so that's been a really great process that has happened. They're next to the neighborhood there. Within the neighborhood is a large 4-acre piece of property at Compton and Park. And we're going to go ahead next year and work with the same community members and go ahead and do an RFP process for that property there, with the goal of having that be a mixed income development that would have a large portion of it be affordable housing.
Brooks, just one question to follow up on that. Is that going to be, are those properties going to be tax abated, or again, being, so we say that they're going to be housing, but are they going to add to the tax rolls? Well, they're not on there now. Will they be added to the tax rolls with housing? Or are they going to seek tax abatement, or do you know?
Correct. So Habitat for Humanity and the newer homes there will be seeking tax abatement for it. So they will go ahead and continue to pay, the taxes on it that SLU has been paying for that property there. But then they'll come off the tax rolls after 10 years for those properties there. Come back onto the tax rolls.
Okay. I think, is there one more question? Our moderator has one more question.
We have a follow-up question from Miriam Townsend. The houses will be 2 stories with 3 to 4 bedrooms and priced in the $300,000 range. The 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condos will be priced in the $200,000 range.
Okay, good. That's further answer to the question. Good.
I'm not sure.
And
if
then she
that's
asks, how is that affordable for teachers making $38,000?
Well, I didn't necessarily say that the new homes, the for sale homes were going to be affordable. Definitely the 7 Habitat for Humanity homes will be. This is, again, coming into it, I think at SLU, and as a social worker myself, coming in and saying to the residents there that you should make all of these affordable. It's really, we went ahead and turned the tables and said, no, really that the residents there should be allowed to go ahead and make that decision themselves. And as us, as an institution in that, should we be the ones that really come in and say that these should be this types of homes or that types of homes. So the neighborhood there is the ones that decided that these be 2-story with brick and stone front facades, and that they're going to fit nicely into the neighborhood with the architecture and that there. But at the same time as those for sale homes, then we're really going to go ahead and try to have affordable housing that will stay affordable for the long term. Is we need to go ahead and build rental affordable housing as part of it. Because even with the Habitat for Humanity homes, they can go ahead and begin as affordable, but then as they're sold to the second buyers and that they may be no longer affordable. So I think that we need to go ahead and have rental as part of that. And that's the plan there for the 4 acres at Compton and Park.
Thank you. I don't think we have any other public responses at this point. Is there anyone on Zoom that's available to for the comptroller's response? Otis, could you provide the mayor's response?
Well, the mayor's office and the administration supports this project, and we look forward to having it heard at the Board of Aldermen.
Good, thank you. And it appears that we have exhausted all the responses, and therefore I think we're in.
Can we do one thing? Can we do one
Yeah.
thing? I want to go back. There was one commenter, Daniel Pate, I believe.
Right, P-A-T-E.
P-A-T-E. I'm not sure that we addressed his comments. I want to be sure that if anyone can recall what he was asking. I think I may have addressed a couple of those points, but I just want to be sure that we don't leave anything hanging, because I think that we, yes.
Oh, this is Matt from SLBC. I don't know about Mr. Pate's comments, but I did want to address, I think at the end of Gary Conley's comments, he mentioned the, going forward with the, emerging from COVID, if I could address that briefly.
Sure.
I mean, I don't think that the fear of the future should stop us from moving forward and creating opportunities now, especially if the developer is willing to, continue to move forward. Because in another circumstance, they could have pulled the project altogether because of fear of what's going to happen. So the jobs and the opportunity it provides, I think, is worth moving forward, even if there may be some uncertainty. Furthermore, I think Brooks would say that they probably got some proposals for some strip malls with significant surface parking. And I think given the uncertainty of the future, having a diverse uses, be it hotel, office, residential, and retail, is a much better solution moving forward, with a diverse number of uses that could potentially be repurposed to say two years down the line. We see more need for office or more need from residential than hotel, than moving forward with like a retail strip center with a couple big box stores that could be vacant in 10, 15 years, and then you'd have to do this all over again. So I think the fact that we are moving forward, providing jobs and opportunity, even in some uncertain times, is a good thing, not a bad thing.
And I think also to the comment about whether or not all 6 RPAs will happen. What we've found where we've had other projects where there are several RPAs, almost all of them, the RPAs are being executed and moving ahead. I know in case of Cortex, where we had 11, I think we are now probably up to around 7 or 8 of those, but over time they do. So in this case, we have 6. We're activating 2 now. I would expect that the 3 through 6 will be activated over the next few years as the marketplace recovers and we move forward. So I think this is, while we aren't going